Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. I'm your host. There was quite a upheaval in British Columbia politics when the party, the BC United Party, formerly the British Columbia Liberal Party, folded or collapsed in on itself. The words actually were used are, we're not going to continue to participate in the next election. Now, they had slated 57 people for the election that is upcoming in British Columbia. They were so far behind in the polls. They are trying to do like they did in France, where if they just stop running in these regions, then the people that would have given BC United their vote will give it to the BC Conservative Party. Before I get into it, I would encourage you to like this video. I would encourage you to share this video, and I would encourage you to comment on this video. I have an open GoFundMe for those of you that want to help me buy new equipment, and I have membership for those of you that want to support the channel further. Either way, I appreciate all the support that you give me. All right, I'm just going to read you a little bit about it. Falcon ends BC United campaign, throws support to the Conservatives. Under leader John Rustad, BC Conservatives have overtaken BC United on the political right. First of all, the BC United was never on the political right, and that's why they were never going to hold their own versus the BC Conservatives. 2 years ago, BC United was also known as their prior name was called the BC Liberals, and I believe they changed their name so they could distance themselves from the federal Liberals. The party of majority in British Columbia is the NDP. So there's no arguing that the NDP in British Columbia is far left. These are the same people that gave us fentanyl smoking in hospitals and playgrounds. The BC United Party is suspending its election campaign and encouraging supporters to join forces with the surging Conservative Party of British Columbia with the goal of uniting the right-of-centre vote, its leader said on Wednesday. At a joint news conference, BC United leader Kevin Falcon confirmed he will not be seeking re-election as an MLA as the two parties' combined campaign efforts head for the October 19th provincial election. Now, what's shocking, or not shocking, but what's really bad for that guy, which he should really feel the sting of, is 2 years ago, the leader of the BC Conservative Party was a sitting member of the British Columbia Liberal Party, and he took issue with Stephen Guilbeault's position on carbon. He, as in his words, believes the science. And they threw him out. They said either publicly renounce what you had to say or get out of our party. And he did. He got out of the party. He stuck to his guns. And now he is set to be the premier of British Columbia. I mean, the polls between the NDP, the British Columbia NDP and the British Columbia Conservatives are neck and neck. Why that interests me is because the pollsters are not going to necessarily be asking the questions out of town, which means they're finding people in Vancouver or maybe a few of the regions around Vancouver that are willing to admit out loud in public that they are going to support the British Columbia Conservative Party. How does that impact the vote up north in British Columbia? Now, I think that this BC United guy, formerly the BC Liberal Party, just couldn't stand the fact that he was not ever going to come close, that his entire party was at very best going to be a couple of seats that could have just as easily got elected under the independent banner, which some of them are now going to do. Ironically, it was Falcon's 2022 ousting from Rustad from BC United, formerly the BC Liberals, over anti-climate science claims that led Rustad to become the leader of the British Columbia Conservatives. Ever since the Conservatives have been climbing in the polls and are now out fundraising the BC United. In the past few months, 4 BC United incumbent MLAs have jumped ship to the Conservatives. And that's what's interesting mostly about the 4 people that have come over to the Conservative Party, that they're already elected and they're sitting members. Now, you have to put yourself in the mind of an elected member of Parliament, provincial or federal or even City Hall. But City Hall is typically different. But provincially, let's understand something. That they're going to be much more in contact with their neighborhood, the people that elected them. Now, they're sitting in whatever the House of Legislature is, the provincial legislature is called in Vancouver, in British Columbia. They see the polls going, and they, as sitting members, drop their liberal moniker and pick up the conservative moniker because they know something about where the people in their neighborhood are going to vote. So rather than allow the conservatives to put a person in their neighborhood and put them out of work, they said, you know what, you're probably right. I mean, I was screaming and yelling that you should be thrown out of the party because you disagreed with with Stephen Guilbeault. But it turns out that a lot of people that have voted for me are now going to vote for anybody else. So I'm going to switch teams, and they can now vote for me, and I will keep my job. That is great news for everybody except the NDP. Because what that indicates is the tone, the shift in the way the people in British Columbia are feeling about the way the NDP party is handling things. Now, because they are so rooted far left, they won't think of it that way. They will tell themselves that it's all, some kind of an ist, and they'll try to shore up their vote. But it's British Columbia. I mean, it's got a lot of people in it that are retired, wealthy, right? They got money and they retired and they moved to British Columbia for the weather. It also has a lot of people that are becoming active, right? It had a lot of silent majority, and now people are upset because of the massive amounts of tent cities. Between them having the legalized narcotics and the usage of everywhere you wanted to, and the better weather, the tent cities that are run up the spine, the mountain of British Columbia, are astounding. I mean, I see the feeds from people all the time. Miles of tents. So that's also working against them. I don't know why anybody on the far left wouldn't think in their mind that that's going to bother people. Like, I don't understand why they believe that it would only bother a certain demographic, right? It wouldn't bother anybody else. Because somehow in their mind, your ideological drive is going to outweigh your feeling for your family or your safety or your friends or your property value I don't understand the logic, but they seem to have lost the message. And as a result, the conservatives are making huge leaps. And as a result, they are going to be the official opposition at the bare minimum. They may very well be able to knock the NDP out. Now, I can't say for the other demographics, but I just want to believe that the lower mainland in British Columbia has a high population density, and so there might be a lot of NDP that are represented there. And if you're in British Columbia and you're listening to this, I think that the British Columbia Conservatives are going to be a better choice. That has nothing to do with climate change. It has nothing to do with whether you've waved the rainbow flag or not. It has everything to do with making sure the society flows and smoothly and easily, to ensure that the systems that are put in place are going to benefit everyone, that are going to protect the unions and going to protect the most vulnerable, the people living on the street. That's just my opinion. Now, I can't be voting in the provincial election, not that one anyway. However, we will be keeping a close eye on it, because if the NDP loses British Columbia, they will basically lose a strong hold that they would have. I think 15 of the federal NDP come out of British Columbia. All right, I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you all for listening. I would encourage you to like this, thumb up on this video. I'll talk to you next time.